Is he good? Good evening. I'd like to call the North Augusta City Council study session for Monday, March the 25th, 2024 to order. At this time, I'd like to turn over to our City Administrator, Mr. Jim Clifford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As per the standard practice for a study session, we'll have three major items. The first will be the City Council agenda review. The second will be department details with the directors. And lastly, we'll have, under Mayor's Matters, some focus items, three in particular. So one, Kelly Zero, City Attorney, will take the lead on to provide a legal update regarding a case that had gone to the South Carolina Supreme Court. Linda from Finance will give us a quarterly update, as we do, on the economic development for Riverside Village. So this is not tied to the recent ordinances and resolutions that have gone through by Riverside Village. This is the standard quarterly EMA update that goes to the bondholders that gets posted. So this is nothing overly new. And then last but not least, under public safety, we'll have an information briefing from Chief Johnson and his team regarding the newly established community action team, just to give you an overview of what their mission and capabilities are. So with that, we'll go ahead into the agenda review, if you don't mind. And so through there, what we'll do is we'll have a number of proclamations that will be led by the mayor. We also have recognition with the Garden Club doing a presentation in conjunction with Roy Kibler to the city. We'll be recognizing our employee of the quarter. That person shall be named this week, and we'll have that up here for next Monday. And then also we'll be recognizing the youth appreciation event. So we'll have a number of North Augusta High School students will be participating in Youth Appreciation Day here at City Hall next Monday. So they'll be coming in here and getting a number. This is an annual event. This is something that they'll do to look at the different departments and how the city functions, and we'll be welcoming them here in the city chambers or council chambers on Monday morning at 9 o'clock.
And then that night they will sit with us and with y'all like always.
Correct.
Okay, great.
But there be no reception. Last year we didn't do anything afterwards because y'all took them to lunch. Because usually I have practice that way.
The Optimist Club handles that. There's no not doing anything yet. Go ahead.
So move into new business. There's no old business to cover. So the first item under new business, under Parks and Recreation, will be receipt of information, which is the Parks Master Plan. So the City Council's already seen the Parks Master Plan. This is the plan that you saw from the Land Plan Group and Boudreaux that laid out, what we could do with the Country Club property or a number of other city parks. So this is just the formal action for you as the council to receive that report. So they're not going to come in here and give you another lay down, but this is just the closeout action, if you will, of the City Council receiving that report formally.
And then we'll have a time at some point after that to decide on what we want to do.
That's correct, Mr. And then items 10 and 11 are bundled, and so you've got both these have to do with the Hammond Ferry tree removal, the bald cypress trees. And so this was before the council at the end of 2022. I had put a proposal together to use city contingency funds to remove trees, and that action was tabled. And so you have to do a formal action to untable that, and then kill that resolution, if you will, in favor of a new resolution that will be in your packet for this coming Friday. But that resolution is going to look very similar to the one that you tabled. In that it's going to recommend the removal of those 54 trees through Hammond's Ferries. The difference is going to be the fund site. So whereas last time I requested come out of City Administrator Contingency Fund, this time it'll come out of the Capital Projects Fund. We have a number of bids that have been put together, and so we'd like to be able to award a little bit. And so you may ask, what's really changed between 2022 and 2024? And so just to refresh the council on this, you had provided some guidance to staff through my office of what we needed to do. We ended up going through MASC and through both insurance and also through legal channels. Our city attorney had to recuse himself from this particular action just based on familiar relationships with folks involved. And so this has been strictly through MASC and through an outside legal firm. And so they spent a great deal of time coming back and forth between the city. They went and evaluated the trees. And essentially the report that I received back was, hey, these particular type of trees, which do not have root barriers around them in this particular system, is causing significant damage to city sidewalks. and is going to cause future damage to houses and then also to their ornamental structures, including ones that have already been damaged. And so bottom line is the insurance company said, hey, these trees have to come out. And so their legal and insurance advice to us was the removal of these trees. So this is the action that I'm bringing before the council for consideration, is that we have a number of bids, and we'd like to move forward with the lowest bid to go forward to remove these trees.
Well, will this be after this happens? These trees will not be put back in, even if the homeowner requests it.
Councilman, we'll still have to negotiate with the homeowners association about a replacement of
Well, I
trees.
mean, well, then that would get the city out. We're doing this now, but
The only action that I'm proposing at this time is the removal of the trees.
yeah. But I mean, if we go back and put more in another home, then we're going to be back in the same boat.
So what is still to be determined is a negotiation with the homeowners association about whether the city allows them to plant in the right of way between the sidewalk and the road itself, and if so, what type of trees, and whether the city will then take acceptance of those through a deed of dedication. None of that has been determined as of yet. I'm just going through the insurance and legal requirements of first removing the trees, and so that's our first step in that arena. But I have not committed the city to funds to replace those trees at this point in time. So, barring any other questions on that, that would conclude items number 10 and 11. So that's 2022-43 and 2024-16. We're going to move on now to resolution number 2024-17, which is a resolution authorizing expenditure of coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, also known as ARPA, request number 12. And to that, I'm going to kick it over to our Assistant City Administrator, J.D. McCauley.
Good evening. This is the last expenditure request for ARPA funds that we're going to bring to council. The reason behind this request is what it would do for us is it provides access to the remaining $918,000 unallocated ARPA funds, and it also then gives us access to the unspent funds that have previously been allocated under the last 11 ARPA expenditure requests. And the reason why it's to be determined amount for those unspent funds from the previous 11 ARPA requests is that there's some contingency built into those, and we want to make sure that we're in line with U.S. Treasury requirements to have those funds obligated, which they are right now, but they also have to be spent by the end of 26. So this resolution gives us the ability to follow that guidance. What this resolution also does is it gives us guidance from Mayor and Council on what to spend these funds on. If you look at Appendix A, it gives us an outline of what projects we're looking at to spend these funds on. Note that administration will follow the procurement policy for each one of these requests. Each subsequent request will have to follow a procurement policy, which is anything over $10,000 will come to Mayor and Council for approval. Of note, the first two lines in Appendix A will be fully funded. Projects will be executed with these funds. The remaining lines on Appendix A will be partially funded and look to have other funding sources to complete those projects. Specifically, if you look at downtown improvements, we're looking to do electrical upgrades. It's going to repair our current electrical infrastructure, increase our capacity and our number of outlets. This is for year-round and seasonal decorative lighting, as well as supporting the Jack-O-Lantern Jubilee Festival and other festivals we have downtown. Then you go to parking improvements. Looking at the Main Street plan, we're looking at investigating current and future parking needs in the downtown area, and this will give us the avenue to do that as well. And then finally, last but not least, for a fully funded aspect of these projects is a new trolley. We're utilizing the trolleys more and more, and this gives us a trolley if we ordered now, we would receive it in 2025. And also of note, in CPST 5, we have another trolley requested there. So what this does is it gives us a 3 to 5 year plan to replace the 2 current trolleys that we have, which are reaching end of life. At the same time, we're increasing the use of them. So this kind of gets ahead of, we're looking at, get ahead of the issue of having an increased need and the end of life for our current 2 trolleys. So we're hopefully getting ahead of that. And then the remaining unknown portion that we're going to recoup from things that have been allocated but perhaps unspent from contingency point of view, you have a capital improvement plan study, and then also Riverview Park Activity Center improvements, and then playground improvements specifically at Creighton Park and Summerfield Park. Those are two areas that we've got a lot of feedback from. And I'd turn it over to you, Mayor and Council, for any questions you have on this resolution.
So if you don't mind, JD, just for me to put a bow on that for y'all. So our intention going forward is moving forward these three projects that JD talked about, and I suspect that we're going to have not a whole lot of money, but at least a little bit of money at the end of all this as we scoop out from the other ARPA expenditures. And so much like we did the facilities improvement plan at the end of year before last, where the council allowed us to take $50,000 and we gave you a list of projects and said, hey, we're still going to go through the procurement aspect, but we're going to use this money as it becomes available. And if there are lower dollar amount projects that fall within this portfolio, we'll go ahead and execute those. So a good example is the elevator flooring, which only costs $1,000. We didn't have to come back to council for a subsequent action. And so there are lots of little projects that can fall within the Parks and Rec that may be able to be fully funded or partially funded with the remainder of the ARPA funds. But our intention going forward on this is the three main projects as JD allocated to, which is the trolley, the downtown electrical improvements, which many of you were up in Greenville and saw the kind of the lighting aspects of the trees and how Greenville does that. That's essentially what we're trying to recreate here. And lastly, to be able to prepare for the parking improvements and the Georgia Avenue traffic calming improvements. That's going to allow for us to make other parking arrangements within the downtown corridor.
I'll make sure. So our goal is this money has to be spent by 2024, but then it's finally reported at 2026. Or
there's a couple different ways to look at it. The way that we're interpreting it, which is the most conservative way to interpret the rules, is that the money needs to be obligated. And the way we view obligated is spent by the end of 2024, although you can receive services by the end of 26. So an example would be, in my opinion, you're buying a vehicle that you place on order, like a fire truck or a trolley. That's okay to prepay because you have a relatively high degree of assurance that that item is going to come in because you've paid for it, much like a car. You wouldn't want necessarily do that for a construction contract because you don't want to prepay a construction element without having the end product there and going forward with that. So we're going to move forward with a number of these items. We want to have our money fully obligated in 24 and not have to have an issue with the U.S. Treasury Department about what our status of funds is, because we absolutely do not want to give back any ARPA funds to the federal government.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Hey, Rick, they were saying they live across the street and they've seen it deteriorate over the years, and just asked if we can please make that a priority for sure.
And they're right.
Yeah.
Councilman JD and Rick Meyer and crew have actually gone out and reached out to a number of vendors and gone through several different options of what's available. But before we can commit any funds to that, we have to see what we have. And I can certainly envision a potential scenario that if, depending on what the council guidance is if Creighton Park replacement is the highest thing on the list, then we could potentially come forward with a proposal where we would bundle the remainder of the ARPA funds with, either capital projects fund or try to get it into the 2025 budget to do it as an increase there. But I could see a couple different options to move for funding.
I would just say, Dave, you can let them know that I think it was clear when we had our retreat about the Parks Master Plan, there was definitely a very positive appetite by council that says, hey, Creighton Park is important. So just letting them know we're aware of that and as things make sense. Go ahead, Jim.
Any other questions on ARPA? Then I'm going to go ahead and bundle the next two. We've got resolutions number 2024-18 and 19, which is authorizing funding for the Beautification Foundation and the Public Safety Foundation, respectively. And so the intent here is to provide seed funding to these two organizations in the amount of $1,500 each. This would be a one-time payment from the city out of the general fund to get those organizations established. And the future of those foundations is for private donations to those foundations to be able to provide for what they're doing. And so in the Beautification Foundation, you can see with the total amount is $1,500. Where we're getting that from is $750 from the contingency line under City Council out of the Mayor's contingency, and $750 out of Special Department Supplies and Community Promotions, which we felt was in line with what that fund line was supposed to be doing. And then for the Public Safety Foundation, that's going to come out of the City Administrator contingency for that amount, along with the same end of the Community Promotions line. So those are one-time establishment fees for those foundations. And I'll pause for any questions on those. Hearing none, all right, we'll move on to the next resolution, which is under Planning and Development, resolution number 2024-20, accepting a deed of dedication for all the items associated with the Butler Pond townhomes. Again, this is a standard item that we'll do as we accept infrastructure. And so that's the recommendation of the Planning Department and also Engineering that we'll go ahead and accept that deed of dedication. And then next to last, we have resolution number 2024-21, authorizing the city to enter into a contract with J.M. Bailey & Associates to perform land surveying services. Again, this is an item where we went out to bid, got multiple bidders, and this is the low bid. And this is for us to look at some items for downtown. And as you all know, with CPST 4, the project that you've now pushed to the top of the list of the remaining funds is for the Georgia Avenue traffic calming and pedestrian safety. And so there are a number of things we're going to have to do prior to that. And so in order to do that and get that kick-started, we'd like to use ARPA funds, which JD briefed you on as far as number 12, and for us to be able to do surveying services in the downtown corridor. I'll pause for any questions on that one. I have one late add. There's nothing in your packet on this, so this will be just a verbal for me at this point in time. I would intend to present 2 more resolutions for next week. I'll go in your packets on Friday. And so if you recall, the council had approved previously a resolution authorizing the use of Department of Energy settlement funds out of the interest account. So those funds have been gaining interest, and the council had made, I believe, a $795,000 obligation, and that provided a number of things at the transfer station, to including a paving project and some of the things associated with the transfer station. Well, we're about halfway obligated on that interest fund. We still have the paving contract to go through this summer, and our interest-bearing accounts have gotten us to a point where we have enough money in the bank out of interest, not principal, to be able to do another round of interest request to the council. And so what I would envision coming forward is, much like the last time, is a request that lists out the types of projects that we'd like to go forward. And I have the very first project that would be ready to go for funding, which is the purchase of a truck, a boom truck, which is also primarily used for yard waste pickup. And I know you all as the council get an amount of feedback about the timeliness of yard waste, and so this would be a great way to come out the gate. The city council had previously approved in the general budget, I believe in 22, for the purchase of this type of apparatus. But at that point in time, based on COVID and COVID recovery, the manufacturer of those vehicles didn't have enough parts. You had some supply chain issues, and so that slipped and was not able to be purchased in that year. James Sutton, through a fairly rigorous process, was able to find a vehicle that's new, that's available in North Carolina. And so if the city council approves that action next week, we could place that on order very quickly and hopefully have that here in a matter of weeks or maybe a couple of months as opposed to a year. So I think that would be a good way to move forward. So those will be a bundled resolution that you'll see next week. So one is a more generic request, much like ARPA 12, but just lists out these are the types of projects we're willing to do with this interest, and then a very specific request for the purchase of a truck. So I'll pause for any questions on our agenda. Hearing none, I'll push it over to Jamie for department details.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight's department details, we'll start with Finance Director Linda Williamson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have a busy week in finance this week. Our business license renewals are due tomorrow, April 30th. After that, they will be out of compliance and they will start owing late fees on their applications. Also, our city property taxes are due May 1st. That's Wednesday. And we will be assessing that 15% penalty on those taxes that are not paid on May 2nd. Wednesday and Thursday of this week, May 1st and 2nd, is also our Cycle 2 disconnect dates. And then we will have our Cycle 1 due date May 6th. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks, Linda. Public Services Director James Sutton.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to update y'all on some ongoing projects we have. Clay Street Pump Station, Republic Contracting has started to do some work on the site. In the process, we had in-house had a couple of water mains that we needed to disconnect from the secondary pump station that was installed in the early 70s. We have a utility crew scheduled to come in tonight from 11 till about 4 a.m. disconnect that line. It's going to take one of the primary mains out of service that provides water to North Hills Shopping Center and Edgewood Apartments, so that we can get in and get out with less disturbance. We want to go ahead and do that tonight. Moving forward, without any questions.
And I'm assuming we let people know that.
Sorry?
We let.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. We delivered door-to-door notices. Yeah, so customers have been notified, and they shouldn't even know we're there unless they stay up after 11 o'clock. So anyway. Solid waste transfer station, that project, clearing the site and excavation and stockpiling topsoils and various debris have been completed. Right now, Davison Floyd Engineering is preparing a bid package for the building and various items that go along with the building. We hope to have that package out within the next 60 days. Moving forward, the wastewater interceptor continues. Augusta Industrial Services is working between West Terrace along the Greenway Trail near Center Street. And that project's going well. We're about a third into completion. We still have a lot more pipe to inspect and check. On a good note, they haven't found any pipe that requires to be excavated and repaired. They have found some fractured pipe that's in poor condition, but they feel like they can line through it, which is a good thing. So we're looking forward to getting the final results so we can prepare a bid package to present to RIA so we can get the primary project done of relining the entire pipeline and rehabilitating the manholes.
That's great, James. Thank you.
And just as a reminder for council, the solid waste transfer station is a DOE settlement money funded project that's solely funded by that fund line. We don't have to go to RIA to get approvals, but because we're the recipient of that $7+ million grant from RIA for the wastewater interceptor project, we have to go through all the documents and then have a bid document put together, and then RIA has to approve that before it goes out for bid. So there'll be an extra step. We're still grateful for the money from RIA. So just so you know, as soon as we finish the camera project, it's still going to be a gap of time between finishing that out and then being able to go out for bid for replacement of or relining of the pipes. Sorry, Jamie, back to you.
All right, next, Planning Development, Planner Cully Baker.
Good evening. Next week, the Board of Zoning Appeals will have their regular meeting on May 7th. And I have a couple of code enforcement updates for you today. Code enforcement has been working a case of illegal dumping in the Rushing Waters subdivision. That appears to be coming from Kip Road. They also have some bids out for cleanup at 420, 440, 446, and 460 Metz Drive, as well as illegal vehicles. They're working on towing at 415 and 446 Metz Drive. And to kind of end things up, 616 West Buena Vista Avenue was cleaned last week. 616 West Buena Vista Avenue was cleaned last week.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you. Next is Public Safety, Chief Johnson.
Good evening. Last week we had promotions, and Matt Mealing is now the new D shift sergeant. Dylan Givens is the A shift corporal, and Andy Hogg will be transferring over to investigations. Last week we were able to get our community action team established, which they're here tonight, and we'll go over that more in a few minutes. And also in the last week and a half, we responded to 4 structure fires. We would encourage all the citizens to practice fire safety. A couple of causes, one of them was from smoking, one of them was from cooking and they fell asleep, and another one, they were burning incense on the porch. So all these are preventable fires. We just ask that everyone thinks about fire safety and practices it within their own home.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, up next, Parks and Recreation, Director Rick Meyer.
Good evening. So proud to report that the turf installation at the North Augusta Miracle League Field has been completed. And in celebration of that, even though the project's not totally completed, we decided it was the last Saturday for the Miracle League wrecking crew for their spring baseball season. We said, come on out here and play on this turf, because they needed to be the first ones to play. And I hope you saw the Channel 12 did a news story on that. You can look that up if you haven't. So we're excited about that. Phase 1 still has, in the next couple of weeks, fencing, dugouts, backstop, and bleachers will be added. And then Phase 2 will start fundraising here shortly. Wrecking crew will. And that will be scoreboard, video board, and picnic pavilion that will be raising
Tell them
money.
how they
Will
were
we do a
hitting.
ribbon cutting after Phase 1, or are you y'all wait until the end of Phase 2?
Yes, the wrecking crew prefers to wait till the fall to do a really big ribbon
Okay.
cutting. Yes, that is their preference, not mine, theirs. So
You're the
we're gonna
boss.
go. Yes.
Well,
If you get a minute, ride over and see it.
oh yeah,
I mean, it
Yeah.
is,
Did you?
it
It's
is
good.
something
It
else.
looks really good.
And
it
that's
looks
just
good.
plain. I mean, just
Yes.
the feel. Wait till the rest.
Yes.
Tell them how they were hitting now.
No, I tell you what, that one young man, and I'll call him a man, he belted that ball to left field. Yeah.
Almost
Yes.
they were fired up, weren't they?
The adrenaline was kicking in. Yeah. Proud to announce that both splash pads are in operation now. The maintenance crew did a fabulous job of rebuilding the manifold, the control system over at Summerfield Park, saved the city tremendous funds. I think we had a quote of around $30,000 for that. And Lee Jones and Michael P., I'm going to call him. It's hard to pronounce his last name. Balowitz, I'll get close to it. They went over there and rebuilt it, and probably the cost of parts about $2,300. So
A lot of talented people.
yes, talented employees make directors and city staff look good. So proud to have them. And this weekend, well, first of all, this past weekend, we had a large travel basketball tournament. This weekend, we will have a third in a row that has taken all 6 gyms. And in addition, we have a USSSA travel baseball tournament this weekend. So Riverview Park busy every weekend with activity. That's it.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank y'all.
How you doing?
Next, Tourism Manager, Carl Waldhauer.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This past weekend was a good one in North Augusta. We had a lot of activity going on. We had Spring Fest, downtown. There was a Summer Fest. SRP Park had a festival going on. Hammond Hill had a walkathon and had City Serve Day going on with some churches got together and just kind of scattered throughout the city to do some good projects. I spent a lot of my time at Spring Fest, and it was good to see not only the festival doing well, but the bricks and mortar stores down there having lines out the door. So it was a good day. A couple noteworthy events we're going to have in our facilities this week. The Palmetto Terrace hosts the South Carolina Economic Development Institute on Thursday and Friday, where 60 folks from around the state will be in attendance. And also at the Community Center from 10 to 12 on Wednesday, Lower Savannah Council of Governments will have a transit improvement study open house going on. And tourism staff for the past few weeks have been really concentrating on our digital presence through social media, looking at reconstructing our website and evaluating our branding as we move forward and getting our kind of our brand out there and kind of showcasing North Augusta a little bit.
Putting Jennifer to work, aren't you?
We are. She's doing a good job.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you. Engineering and Public Works Director Tom Zeser.
Good evening. For several months, Streets and Drains has been investigating sinkhole related to some storm drainage on Bolin Road, and we have determined that replacement of that pipe or a portion of that pipe is the only solution, and so we have finally secured easement to access that property, and so crews will begin replacement of that pipe within the next 2 weeks. All that work is between the road and the greenway on private property, so no impact to the general public. And then also we have secured a contractor to begin some maintenance repainting out front of the municipal building, repainting the railings, handrails, and other metal surfaces that are showing their age. So hopefully, again, that work will begin, we believe, within the next 2 weeks.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, and last but not least, Human Resources Manager Kayla Ferguson.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Along with our normal list of employment opportunities, tomorrow at SRP Park, we are hosting our Employee Appreciation event. This normally falls in June, but this year we got lucky and it's in April, so it's not quite so hot. Y'all feel free to come down if you'd like to and if you're able. Yeah, that's when they start lunch. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Kayla.
Kayla, one question. This is just me being nosy. Who is the resource officer? Did somebody because I know we had one at every school.
Yes.
Which school was this coming out of?
It's coming out of the high school council.
Oh, so we got two at the high school. So one's
So the primary is Jason Pierce.
yeah, right. I know Jason.
So Jason is retiring, and so as we do with most of our positions, that's being advertised. I believe Chief may have an internal candidate to fill, or may not. But regardless, he's going to go through the list of folks, but we certainly have that school resource officer in place before the school year.
I was just wondering. And then Junior, I guess nothing's ever happened about Belvedere Elementary. And I know that's Aiken County. We've gone through that, but they cannot. So here we come, Mike Hunt again. I don't understand that. Do y'all?
Mr. Mayor, that concludes the department details, and if we can, we'll move into our first of our three focus items. And to that, I would defer to our city attorney, Kelly Zerk.
Okay. As I was looking at this earlier today, I saw it might be more appropriate for me to do this at the meeting next week, because that will be the 6th year anniversary of when this all began. It was at a meeting on May 7th of 2018. The Reader's Digest condensed version of this, and this has to do with the Holcomb versus City of North Augusta action, alleging that on May 7, 2018, we violated FOIA. The Court of Appeals overturned the lower court's decision that found that we were in violation. The Court of Appeals then turned down a request to review that, and then about 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court refused certiorari, meaning they decided we don't need to review this order. So the nuts and bolts of it is, at this point, the court has decided that the actions the city took on May 7, 2018 were correct. We did not violate Freedom of Information Act, and totally overturned the lower court's decision to include voiding the award of attorney's fees or anything else. Probably need a little bit of information about the case, and it seemed to us from the very beginning that it was pretty simple, and I think that the lower court made a very contorted interpretation of what an agenda is, and that's what led to all of this. That on May the 7th, we had on a resolution on the agenda that night that was for the council to make a determination what items were going on CPS, whichever it was, for, I guess. And at the meeting, it was right at the time where a lot of matters were coming up related to the lock and dam, that the mayor decided he wanted to plug in $500,000 into that to potentially use related to defending matters, repairing whatever might be done. Motion was made to amend the resolution that was passed, and it was approved and sent on to the county. Thereafter, Mr. Holcomb took the position that we had amended the agenda, which is something that you cannot do. The agenda, just as you have in front of you tonight, the agenda for the upcoming meeting, is to tell you and to tell the public what items are going to be taken up at that council meeting. And if a person is interested in one of those matters, then he or she would have the ability to come and talk at the meeting. In an effort to provide much more information than was required, we were putting out what was called Agenda Complete, and that had copies of all of the ordinances and resolutions that were going to be discussed at a meeting. From that, Mr. Holcomb took the position that that was the agenda, and we could not amend that. The lower court ultimately decided with him that that was an agenda, and you just could not change anything on. From that, we appealed, and I think probably, and I know I've provided each of you with copies of the opinion from the Court of Appeals, but in that opinion says, we agree with the city's argument that the circuit court misinterpreted the word agenda and failed to apply its plain and ordinary meaning. And that's what our position was all along. And then they also picked up on the other thing that we were faced with. It said that that decision and ruling would discourage public bodies from providing supplemental information. So going back to May 7, 2018, if we said, here's the agenda, we're not even going to give you a copy of any resolution or ordinance, then we were perfectly within the guidelines of FOIA. And in fact, the Court of Appeals went one step further and said a prudent public body would would no doubt err on the side of not providing background information before meetings so that it could avoid any threat of litigation, but that would thwart rather than forward FOIA's purpose. And that's exactly the way it's turned out. So the situation now is that's all behind us. The court has said that we did not violate, and what we did that night was in accordance with FOIA. And the case is forever ended because the remediatur has been filed with the clerk of court. I think it was the end of last week, and there's no more appeals. That's it.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Kelly.
Next up, we'll have our quarterly update from Lynn in Finance for Riverside Village.
Good evening again. You can forward on. Again, this is our quarterly update. We do these voluntarily, and the quarter one for 2024 has been uploaded to the electronic municipal marketplace website and also the city's website under the financial transparency. Next slide. Quite a few of these tables will still remain unchanged as we're awaiting our 2023 financial audit. For example, the assessed value of taxable property that you see here is from the statistical section of our audit, and so we will update that in quarter two once we have received that back from the auditors. This table is our tax rate table. This table has been updated to reflect the tax rate for the tax year 2023, which is collected in the fiscal year 2024. It also shows the tax rate for the previous 4 years. In November, Council approved a 2 mil tax increase for the 24 budget, with 3.8 mils going to the Capital Projects Fund. Again, this increase in millage allowed for the city to provide a 4% COLA to all their employees, addition of new positions, enhancements to our public safety sworn officers and dispatch, and also the purchase of replacement and new vehicles, machinery, and equipment without having to finance those items. Next slide is the city's general fund budget for 2024. Again, this is just something that is required for us to do, and they prefer that this is done in a separate table. The next 3 slides will will remain unchanged. Again, we're going to be waiting on the information from our 2023 audit. So that's the 10 largest taxpayers, the tax collection record of the city, and also the outstanding indebtedness. This table shows our general obligation bond. We had one that we did for the public safety headquarters, and since it was done through referendum, again, we still have our 8% capacity still available to us. The principal and interest payment for this year was made in February, and that is now reflected in that 2024 number. All right, our local hospitality taxes. Again, we have a 2% rate in the city. 1% of that is dedicated to the debt designation. So far this year, our hospitality taxes are up $60,000 from the same quarter in 2023. So you're seeing about a 10% increase from this quarter last year to this quarter this year. And now, while our 23 figures are not audited figures, what I can share is that at this time we've received over $2.5 million in hospitality taxes for 2023, which is about a 9% increase over the 2022, sorry. Also, the receipts of the tax dedicated debt service outperformed our financial model by almost $400,000 last year. Next up, we have the accommodation taxes. Again, this table presents all the accommodation taxes collected in the city, while the Crown Plaza is the one that's dedicated to our debt service. Again, that tax rate is 3%. And our unaudited 23 collections were $367,000, which is about a 17% increase over the 22 collections. Quarter one for 2024 is up $14,000 to $66,000, and that's about a 27% increase over the same time frame as of 2023. We are seeing the trend increase continuously, and then also True Hotel came on into this in February. They remitted their first tax things in there. So we should see that number a little bit higher this year than expected. All right. Next tax. Okay. The next table is our tax increment revenues. Again, this number represents the all the TIF from Aiken County in our intergovernmental agreement, and we will need to pay that $350,000 as part of that agreement, and we'll do that in quarter 2. Our TIF revenues rose about 3% in 23 over the year of 2022. I'd see no reason why we wouldn't expect that same growth this year. Riverside Village payments are not quite reflected in this number yet, but again, our taxes are due on May 1st. Mid-assessments. This table represents our mid-assessments. This year, we have did a council resolution adopted that in January to add the $737,000 of mid fees to the undeveloped parcels in Riverside Village. Those have not been collected as of yet. Again, our taxes are due on May 1st. Parking revenues. We see a negative number again this quarter. And this particular chart is also including the expenses that we pay out for parking as well as the revenue that's coming in. Again, we're still going through discussions with the hotel developer as well as management, and we expect a resolution sometime in the near future. We will start receiving monthly checks from the Green Jackets for their game day parking in our parking decks. So I can see that number should look much better next quarter. And we've kept the additional language in the report just to keep record that we are still working on that, number.
The Green Jackets, we've always gotten that, right?
Correct. Yeah. All right. And finally, this is our stadium revenue chart. All our 2023 payments were received as agreed upon. Our admissions tax is what we usually receive that in August, and that's after the second quarter revenues come in from the state. And that payment will be updated in quarter 3. We have received the performance license fees and the rent earlier this month, so you'll see that update in quarter 2. And the the corporate naming rights are usually received in December. That concludes our report, our update for this quarter. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
Last but not least, your Chief of Public Safety.
Good evening. Tonight we're going to talk about the Community Action Team. What is it? It's very important that anything that you do, that you focus on your mission. The mission we have for public safety in general is to provide exemplary police and fire services. And we wanted to know, how can we continue to provide those exemplary services? What is it that we need to do? Is there a certain group of people we can put in place in order to better interact with the community? And you see our mission statement here for our Community Action Team. Being intentional in building relationships and providing support to both the citizens and the agency through community engagement activities and departmental goals. One of the things that the Community Action Team establishing them allows us to do is it increases our training time. We're able to go to a full day of training for all the officers instead of a half a day training each month while they're working on duty. That allows us to make sure that our officers are some of the best trained in the area so that we know the product we're delivering is good for the citizens. So that's where it comes in. And then also the back part of that is this team will be able to go out there, build those relationships, meet the people. Many of the events that Carl was talking about up here a few minutes ago, these guys have been at all of them. If you've been there, you've probably seen them. And you saw them, you might not have even known that they were part of the Community Action Team. They've been to homeowner association meetings. They're hitting the ground running. So first thing first, let's talk about each one of them for a second real quick. This one here is Lieutenant Robert Velasco. He's the leadership for this team. He's our training lieutenant. He's in the office every day. And one of the things that Lieutenant Velasco has made it a mission of his this year is to improve our social media presence. He's done an amazing job with that. And these guys here are part of that. When you see the different things that they go to, They'll help gather content to get the picture so that we can put something out so that people know public safety is out there providing these services. The next three people, each one of them sitting down there, you have Officer Thomas Vine, K-9 Officer Mitch McBride, and Officer Justin Russo. All of these guys have experience. They came to us from other agencies, and so they've been there. They've seen it, how other agencies interact, and they just want to make sure that we're putting the best product forward. I will give a little plug for Officer Russo real quick. He is also one of the founding members of the Departmental Honor Guard, and we will be presenting the colors tomorrow at Employee Appreciation Day. That's something that they want to do. So if you get there early, you'll be able to see them bring the flags out for it. Go to the next one. And also, if you look at this slide here, this is Blaze. That's Mitch McBride. That's his K-9 that he takes with him. Blaze is a narcotics dog as well as a tracking dog, as well as very hyper. A bundle of energy wherever they go. And on the right there, Sergeant Justice. That's a uniform we ordered a couple years ago. We had some friends loan us Chase and Marshall from the Paw Patrol, and that was the biggest hit at the Jack-O-Lantern Jubilee. So now we have our very own person to interact with the kids and go up to them just when we have those events so that they can interact with them much easier.
Who gets the honor of doing that?
So this one here is actually...
I can tell you make our kids very happy when they see you, so.
There you go. And as you know from going to sporting events, like with Augie and everything, you got to have the right personality inside the suit to make it work.
Thank you, sir.
They do a great job with that. So let's go to the next slide. We'll look at some of the events that we talked about. Spring Fest, career fairs, Jack-O-Lantern Jubilee, Christmas Parade, Third Thursdays, SRP Park special events. Citizens Academy, that's a great thing. And I would encourage anyone that's listening online or tonight right now, if you don't know much about public safety and you want to learn more, we'll get you plugged in, signed up for the Citizens Academy. Enforcement of problem areas. If a citizen comes up to you and says, man, something's going on here, there's too much crime in this area, you got somebody you can have to help us out over there. Well, these what these men will be available to do. Greenway Patrol, events at the amphitheater. One of the things that Lieutenant Velasco has been involved in so far is Boys and Girls Steering Club to try to get something set up here in North Augusta and be involved with the wrecking crew, community outreach, and homeowners association meetings. That way, if people have questions, they're there, they're ready. And also part of that is to be seen in all areas of the city. Not only at homeowners associations, go to apartment complexes so that we can have that interaction. One of them met with the apartment manager at Savannah Oaks earlier this week, just so that when we go to these apartment complexes, we can build those relationships before we need them in order to solve crimes. Don't wait until it's too late to get in there and get started. And that's one of the main missions of this team, so they can get out, be seen, people feel comfortable with them, and even if they won't do it in the public, they can call them and get the information that we need. So here's a couple of slides that they're participating in. The first one there is the career fair over at North Augusta Middle School. They'll be there on Friday to help out with that. As soon as we named them, before they officially even took their spots, they immediately started working on this touch a truck. They want to make this community action team the best it can be to put public safety out there at the forefront and interacting with people in different ways. And you see it, that's May 11th. Also on the right there, you see a charity softball tournament. One of the things they put that together, and you say, well, how does that interact with the community action team? Because that was with a group that plays down there at Riverview Park on a regular basis, and they're putting on the tournament as a fundraiser to give the money back to the wrecking crew so that they can continue doing those facility improvements that they want to do with the Miracle League field and whatever else the wrecking crew sees necessary. So what are the goals of this team? Consistent participation in community activities. Without that team, it depends on if there's an officer available on the patrol division to go. That way, these guys are dedicated. We're not taking someone away from answering a call for service. They have dedicated duties so that they can be there and continue that interaction. Build a rapport with community leaders, civic and religious groups, and other neighborhood organizations like those that we just talked about. And advocate for our community and agency. What do you mean advocate for our community? If the people in the community see them, interact with them, they have needs, they can get them voiced, and we can do what we can to help them out. So that's why we need that advocate. And last but not least, we're going to leave you with a picture from 2016 to give you an idea of some of the things they can do. And this is from 2016. I'm in the picture. Obviously, Councilwoman Carpenter's in there. Lieutenant Velasco, Sergeant Mays, and then SRO Tim Stembridge. And this was when we were playing basketball with the wrecking crew. These are the kind of events that we want to participate in, that we can make a difference in the community. Do y'all have any questions?
I do.
Yes, sir.
First of all, Lieutenant Velasco, thank you. I can tell completely what a huge increase on social media. A lot of what you post is what I print and I mention at the end of the meetings or council meetings. So just a fantastic job. So let me make sure I understand. So this group, they are full-time with CAT, or is this something they're filling in? Explain, you went fast. So you and Jim both talk so fast. So just kind of explain to me how you're using it.
What we did, Thomas Vine and Mitch McBride, they are full-time with the CAT team. That is their schedule. They'll set it up. And their schedule hadn't been set in stone yet because we want to make sure that it's flexible for when the events come up. They're able to attend them, just like working on Saturdays, this past Saturday, so that it's flexible. They can do that. And then we don't have enough manpower for the third person to be completely full-time to the team. So we got to get some people out of training and ready to go to make sure the shifts are covered. But while we were doing the interviews, we wanted to go ahead and name that third person. And that's where Russo comes in. And he can also work hand in hand with the other two while he's on his shift to continue to achieve their goals.
So walk me through in your mind how, you may not be able to answer this because you just started. So curious, because you've listed all these is great. So how, like right now, like for third Thursday, or let's say when we have, after we do the Christmas tree lighting, the merchants do the cocoa crawl. So are these gentlemen, are they going to be our folks who are going to be down there in the role of maybe helping people across the street like we've been pulling an officer to do for third Thursday? You know, are they handling that, or are they going to be out talking to the people who are walking around?
Combination.
Okay.
So the best example I can give you was last week, or not last week, the 18th on the third Thursday for April. They went down there. They took turns doing the crossing, and they also got the John Deere Gator that we have at Public Safety and used it to go about town so that they could go to the different businesses. So that way, if the businesses have a certain issue going on, they can reach out to them and let them know what's going on. So it's going to be a combination of that.
That's great. Good. Okay. I just trying to understand. Okay, very good. We're excited for you, gentlemen. This is huge. I'm telling you, this is, we can't tell our citizens that, the Greenway's a priority, our downtown's a priority, Riverside Village, the connection piece, all things we're talking about, if we aren't putting, our forces out there where they can see it. That's a big deal. I mean, citizens tell us, when they're going down to Green Jackson, they see 3 or 4 law officers, their car is parked, the SRP park, that's a big deal. But that type of enforcement, that visual for citizens in our downtown is huge. So we're excited. I'm excited for that. So.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
This is good. Good job, Chief.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, man.
This has been needed for years, Junior Johnson, and thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that concludes the staff contribution to the study session for this evening. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Rick Meyer. Well, first of all, David just made a good point. We need a sign on the Miracle League field, no metal cleats. Okay, and then another sign as you come up to the baseball and softball field, no scooters or skateboard. Junior, you're like this. I had to take charge down there the other night and told these people you cannot, because they were almost running over people with their little scooters. Do what now? Okay, good, because I know we used to have them down there, and the no smoking too.
Anybody else? All right, we've only got several citizens here, so it's really for anybody on Facebook. Just to kind of let everybody know, this Thursday is the South Carolina, North Augusta National Day of Prayer. There's 2 events. There will be a breakfast at 8 o'clock at Second Providence Fellowship Hall. That will be a free event. And you can go to the WAFJ website to register. It's not too late to do that, but it is a free event. That'll be a great opportunity. Our churches coming together. And the second thing, I need to give Chief these locations. We're doing it. We're having the first citywide prayer walk. So basically, the city of North Augusta would divide it up into 5 sections, but exit 1 is a circle, exit 5 is a circle, exit 6, the Belvedere area is a circle, East Martintown, US 1, Aiken Augusta Highway is a circle, and then the downtown is a circle. And there have been churches that have stepped up and have planned what areas in those circles that citizens and churches will be able to prayer walk. So we're going to have a prayer walk from 6 to 8 that Thursday night. So if I go to church at Grace, which is downtown, so our prayer walk will be downtown. If you go to True North, or you go to Fairview, they're going to be doing Carolina. All this is on the mayor website. It's also on the WAFJ website. So this is going to be, I think, an amazing opportunity for citizens or churches to come together and know that for 1 2-hour period, we literally will have at least somebody and some people walking the streets of our community praying.
So we will be actually, you won't be like in a circle.
No.
Just standing. You'll be actually walking.
That'll be up to areas, but like there's a group that's going to go to Mossy Creek.
All right.
They're going to walk around the parking lot and pray for Mossy Creek. Other areas are going to go walk down, Hammond's Ferry, whatever it may be.
But do we have somebody in charge of each station? Like, so if I walk up, do I just start walking, or somebody's saying the
It's on the mayor website. And
well, I don't know if I'm going to look at that. Just tell me tonight.
Well, it depends. I'll tell you. But to answer your question, yes, some of the prayer circles, you will pick an area and you go. Other ones, they're meeting at the church and then dispersing. Okay. So anyway, just want to pass that on, folks who are watching on TV land. All right, that's all I got. Anything else? All right, good for it. We stand adjourned. Thank you.